is I should start saving my file, so I'm going to go save as, and you have to name it according to your name. So I'm going to call it Lewis underscore project 3. Save it as a PST file. Hit save. Once I had that done, then I'm going to start bringing my elements, and everything's going to be in a separate layer. So the first thing is I'm going to go to open, and first thing I want to do is get my background, which is, I think, that image there. And the way I'm doing that is by hitting the space bar, by the way. Just preview. Hit open. And this file is pretty large. I mean, if I double click on it, you could see that the resolution is pretty big. So if you could find good source files online, and I found this online, by the way. So because you want to make sure you get something large enough that you could scale, have no problems with. And again, the way I'm going to transfer this file over to my working file is by right clicking, and then I'm going to duplicate, and then this little pop-up is going to show up. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I click on this, pull down here the destination, and you notice there's my project file that I just created. If you click on that, it's going to take this image and send it to your working file. Now if I go to my working file, there it is up here in the top. So again, because this image is much larger, I need to transform it. And again, it depends which version of Photoshop you have. The new Photoshop version, see this? You don't want to see. I don't want to see any stretching. So just make sure if you don't have this constraints connected, which let me undo this. You have to click on this little guy here. Let me zoom into that area. This is the lock. So when you scale it, it scales proportionally. So now if I let go of this, you can notice now that it's not stretching it. So make sure that you turn this guy on, or you could just use the shift key. So I'm going to place this down here because it's going to be my ground level. And let's see how much more I want to reveal of this, because I want to make sure that I got room for my fox. I think that's a pretty good crop right there. Hit enter. You notice that it's still bleeding out of the page, which is fine because I really need to showcase a couple elements in here, not the entire thing. So the next piece is the other section of the background. Let me go to open and preview again. What I got here. So that's gonna be a foreground. Oh, there's my logo, by the way. Oh, it's this guy here. So this guy here, I'm gonna blend this to the other one. So let me open that guy. Same thing. Double click. Send it to the working file. Now that I'm here, it's pretty large, like it. Now it's actually on top of this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this guy up a little bit. Turn this guy on and see how much more I could get. So I want to blend it around here. So there's a couple of tricks I could do, because I kind of want to see some of this in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to do this thing called a gradient. So right now you notice that half of this image is missing. In fact, I'm just going to bring it back down here. And I'm going to show you a trick. So right now if I turn this off, you notice it's taking up the entire image. So I'm going to create a mask on this layer, and it's going to be a gradient map. So it's going to go from transparent to solid. So this down here is going to go and become invisible. The way you do that is by creating a mask. So I click on this little guy here. This guy here showcases, like, if you want to add a layer mask. Let me move over a little bit, you can see. Add mask, right? So I zoom out. So when I click on it, I get this white square here. So the way it works is over here on your left hand side of the screen, there's these two black and white squares. Black removes, white brings back in a mask. If I zoom out and I click on the image, you notice that it becomes in color because you're no longer in the mask. So this is going to be kind of a key thing. If you don't see this in black and white, you got to make sure that you click on the mask. See, I'm clicking on the mask. Now it's that. Now if you make a mistake, you can just go to white and bring it back, and I'll demonstrate. So here you want to use the gradient option, which is this guy right here. Gradient tool. It allows you to do, you can see the little animation. See how the gradient is moving back and forth? So you're going to do a gradient mask. So the way it works is you click on the tool, and then you go to the destination. So I'm going to go from the bottom up. I'm going to hold the shift key and drag up to probably right around here and let go. Now you notice that it's showcasing the bottom here pretty nice. So if I want, I can move this guy up a little bit. So I'm going to move the entire layer up to see how much, because if I move it all the way up, there's the original image. So you could see what the layered mask does. It creates this really cool feathered image that's transparent. So right now this, what you're seeing, you're not seeing, if I turn this off, you'll see what I'm talking about. So it's transparent. The white is basically the border. So if I drag this back down and I blend it in to where it begins to hide that seam, now it looks pretty elegant. So I could bring this out a little bit, but I kind of like the diffusion, how this works. If I wanted to make these guys pop up a little bit, I could paint it out, but I think it's working out for the best. So I'm going to save it right there. So again, this is a layered mask. So if you have an image that's cut off and you want to add to it, this is the way I do it, by creating a layered mask and just blending it. I could go in here and paint some of this stuff out to make it a little bit more clean, but I like the fact that I can still see some of these trees back here. Also, I'm going to put an environment of snow in here in a little bit. So now that I have that, let me just save it again. I'm going to start, now I'm going to mask out my fox and put them in the picture. Or maybe I should do the Pampers first. Let's see. Close this. I don't need that open. I don't need this open. So I'm going to go to File, Open. And let's see, where is the fox and snow? Oh, that's one that's laying down on there. That was a nice image, but I want him standing up. So close that. Open, and then I'm going to do the same thing by hitting the space bar. Let's see what this one is. That's the one I want. So this file is not that big. This is at 100%. Thing is, I need to bring, I want to isolate this fox and bring it in. So I think I demoed in the when I did the bear. I'm going to do the same tool for the fox. So it's basically, we're going to go to the quick selection tool, which is this guy here, third one down, quick selection option tool. I'm going to get a small brush, and I'm using the bracket keys for this to make the brush smaller. So I'm going to go in and start doing his face and see how much of his body I could get before it starts losing. I chose this image because he was on white and he's kind of, you know, orange and off-white, so it's probably going to be easy to mask him. Let me see. So when I get down here near the legs, I stop. Let me go over here, maybe get some of the tail. The ears look pretty good. Then you go smaller with the brush and then continue painting. I notice I'm already getting an issue with the tail. It's blending in. I'm losing this whole section here, so I'm gonna have to go back and fix that. Let's see if I can get this leg here. So the way I usually do it is I click and I stop. See, now I'm getting this issue here. So now to see if I can retrieve this area, mask this out. So right now this you notice that this is a plus sign in here. If you hold the Option key, it becomes a minus symbol, which means you can remove it. So I'm going to go back to small. I'm going to click on the Option key and see if I can bring in. Oh, that's pretty good there. I'm going slow. That's pretty good there. Let me see if I could grab this leg here. And I'm going to go even smaller here. Let's see if I could go in between the legs and the tail slowly. And then I'm going to stop. Slowly. And then I'm going to stop. Same thing here. Slowly stop. Slowly stop. Slowly stop. Slowly stop. And slowly stop. I think that's pretty good. So the way I'm going in slowly is because you have to allow the computer and the program to process the information. Once I have this done, oh, I forgot this area here. Gotta do his chest. There we go. So I'm gonna see if I could get some of these hairs to stick out. So I'm gonna go up here in the top where it says Select and Mask, and I click on it. And then there's gonna be another pop-up. It looks pretty clean, but I want to see if I could grab some of these hairs to stick out. So with the second tool down here, it's called the Refine Edge brush. So we zoom in so you guys can see it right here. This guy here, if it's again on a neutral background, it will allow you to extract some of this information. Now you don't paint here, you paint off to the side, so you go in and just brush on the edge and then you stop. Brush on the edge, and then you stop. Brush on the edge and then you stop. Brush on the edge and then you stop. I'm going to leave the ears, but I'm going to probably do some of the top. Go to the side. You notice I'm just barely touching the surface. Stop. And this kind of makes the hair look a little bit better. So I'm going slow. So it actually removes some artifacts. But if this image was like a super high res image, I probably could get the hair better. But you can see that the hair over here is turning out a little bit better. So again, I'm not continuously doing it, I'm doing it a little bit at a time. I'm gonna get a smaller brush here, do this end here, slowly, stop, paint, stop, paint, stop, paint, stop. I'm getting this weird funky thing over here, but I'm gonna fix that in the other file. But I'm gonna do his belly. I think I did that. So I think he's pretty good. The ears look fine. So once I have that done, then I hit OK. And then with him selected already, then I apply a mask to him, which is a third one in. So there he's pretty clean. So now to bring this back, I need to use the paintbrush. And you get a small brush. And again, black removes, white brings back. For in this occasion, I got to go bring back. So I'm going to go here and paint in his foot. It looks like his opacity is 100%. Oh, it looks like that was some snow he's stepping on. Okay, so it's there, but I look like it wasn't. So I think I could live with that. Probably hide him from behind something else. And usually I save the file as a PSD if it was a JPEG that you found online. Save it so you don't lose your mask. Now that I have that, then I right click on the layer, duplicate the layer, send it to my working file, and see how big he looks on the poster. Okay, he's kind of tiny, but he's still going to work. So I'm going to take him and place him down here and make him a little bit larger. Again, holding the, make sure that the lock is there. Scale him up a little bit. And I'm going to crop him a little bit, like right around here. In fact, I'm going to go this direct this much. I don't need to see his entire face because the plate is going to go on this side here. Now let's see what this looks like a little closer. So you can see that the hairs turned out pretty good. See down here at the bottom. Looks like he's actually in that space. But I'm going to do a couple more things to him. And again, you save the file. So now the next element. So let me close this guy. Go to open. And I think I'm going to do the pancakes. I did that. Where's my pancakes? Oh, there it is. Open that file. And I know for a fact this is pretty high res. So I'm going to see if I could do a quick selection on this. Like to this, I would probably, the thing is was blurry, which is not that good. Let's see if we can, I don't need the drip. So I'm going to just get the top area until I get the whole dish. Let's see the quick selection. This is going to work for that. I'm going to get a little brush, bigger brush. I'm going to start down here. Let's see how much of the plate I could get. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's get the pancakes, all the pancakes. Oh, good. It's doing pretty good. I'm stopping and going again. Going again. Get a smaller brush. Get these edges in the corner. Get that one. That one. It's pretty good over there. I'm lucky because there's some white here. Let me go see if I could get this edge here. Bottom section over here. Looks pretty good. To grab a little bit of the top. There we go. Fix this part here. Now this is bottom section of the dish. So I could grab this bit. See, I'm letting the machine process the application. See, it's getting a little muddy there, so I'm going to go in and remove that little bit there. Okay, now I need to add a little bit more here. and remove this area here. Okay, looks pretty good. I'm just seeing all the corners. Pretty good. Again, go back to my layer, create a mask, and then duplicate the file to the other Photoshop file. And it's down here at the bottom. It's down here. You can see if I do Command T, shows me where the image is, and I can drag this guy here. Of course, he's not going to be that big, so I'm scaling it down. Guys, it's going to be right on the top here next to him. So we can make it a little smaller. Sorry, butterfly, I'm going to have to crush you. I think I'm going to touch it a little bit so I could see. There we go. So now I have my layout. The pancake and the fox, and then the logo is going to go down here at the bottom. Let me save the file. So I want to add one more element in here to give it just an environment. So I'm going to open up my other image. And it's this one here. Let me just double check. Yes, snow. Duplicate this guy. Send it over to the first project. Close this one. Close this. Now this one is, so usually when I do a mask on a file, I save it as a Photoshop file. I'm going to go save as. So I can have it so I don't have to remask it again just in case I need to change it up. And here's my element. So this element, I'm going to increase the size of it a little bit. I'm going to make it as big as the layout. And I'll show you this really cool effect you could do. Any image is black and white, you can knock out the black and apply it as an effect. The way you do that is by selecting the layer and going to the attributes here. These are another side of effects you can do. And I'm going to go to screen mode, and it now looks like it's snowing. Knock out the black there. And that, again, that's on screen mode. So screen mode basically knocks out anything that's black. So now you only see the white. So I'm going to duplicate this guy just to get a little bit more density. Oh, there we go. Looks more believable. So let me just save this file now. Again. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to do a couple of things here. I think I want to make the fox a little darker. The way I'm going to do that is by selecting my layer and creating an adjustment on the actual fox. And that's down here at the bottom. I'm going to click here and I'm going to do a curve on him. What a curve is basically white and black. So right now you notice that it's actually on top of the fox. So I'll make sure it's only affecting this bottom layer by clicking on this little icon here that shows you like this direct link going down. So once I click it, you notice over here on the layer, the effect is only affecting this guy here. If I didn't have that effect on, watch what happened. If I would go in and drag this down here, the whole image becomes darker. So that's not what I want. I just want to affect the fox. So I'm going to click on this. Now when I drag it, I'm just going to do it slightly so I can make them a little darker so it matches the scenery. So just by dragging that down, the whole fox's contrast becomes a little bit more believable in the same environment. I'm going the way the background looks where the butterflies are, so it kind of matches a little bit. And the same thing with the pancakes, a little too bright. I'm going to select that, go back here, go back to curves on that, and link it again. And then I'm just going to bring it down a little bit so it looks more believable. So it looks pretty good there. Too dark. Looks pretty good so far. Let me just save my file. And now the last thing I need to do is put my logo down here somewhere. So this mushroom here is really bugging me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all this stuff off now that I'm looking at it, and I'm going to remove that because technically I don't know. It just because this side is lighter. So I'm going to zoom into the file. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this area here onto this, or some of this will be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the layer, and with the clone tool, which is you could use the healing brush, but I'm gonna use the clone tool, which is where is my clones, or the rubber stamp. A lot of people don't use this, but I'm gonna use this new one. This guy down here. Where is that bad boy? He is. Oh, you could do content aware. Let's do that so you guys can see how that works. You can select an item like this. So I'm selecting this guy, and let's see if this works. And what you do is you go to edit, you go to fill, and then you're gonna have this option here where it says content aware. If it doesn't have that, just make sure usually it's on the foreground or background. Make sure you click on content aware. When you click on it, it doesn't map and removes everything, because that area now is basically cloned from areas around here. But the thing is that because the image is so out of focus, you can't even tell it was there. So I'll do that. I'll do that again. So let me go back to my history and go back one. So again, content aware. You select the click away. Select the area you want. And I usually go pretty tight on the image. I'm not doing a big section of it. And then I go to file, and then I go to fill, and in fill you have an option again for content aware. If it's one of these two, just make sure you click on that and hit OK, and it removes the background. So now if I turn everything back on and the plate, that looks a little bit much more cleaner than before. And turn on my effect, make everything look a little bit richer. Here's my snow. So now it's not as distracting. So it looks pretty clean now. So let me just save this guy. And then I'm going to put my logo down here in this area over here because I think it lends to be in that area. The other thing is that sometimes I do a couple of things to make things a little darker. So what I'm going to do is, I think at the bottom here, this bottom section here, I'm going to do a gradient, and I'll show you how that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. It's going to be blank, right? And then I'm going to create a gradient on it. And it's going to be black. So you notice how everything gets a little darker here. Hit OK, and OK again. The cool thing is about this gradient, it's adjustable. Like I double click on this, and this here is telling the angle that's going, and here's the scale. So if I think the scale is a little too big, I could go down on it a little bit, bring it up. See, the thing is that's not really working. But that'll clean it up a little bit. It's too dark. I guess I'm not going to be using this effect. I'm going to turn this off. I don't think it's working like I thought it was going to work, but it's okay. The other thing I want to do a global color, because again, his orange and this orange, maybe I'll change this a little bit. Maybe the curve is not too dark there. Just brighten it up a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a global color on top of the entire thing, and that's going to affect everything. I'm going to go to the top layer and go to color filter, and I'm going to pick a kind of a bluish cool filter. So now everything is all one color. You can see it goes from yellow to blue, and I'm going to make the fonts a little bit brighter so it doesn't feel like it looks a little. Just bring them up a little bit. Close that. Looking pretty good. Let me just save the file again. So again, I added a color filter, so it unifies everything. Everything has a good tone, and this is my effects with the snow. I could actually, cool thing is that you think if it's too strong, you could bring down the opacity on it a little bit. I'm gonna do 50%, maybe 45. 50% is good. So I just dim the increase area of white on it, or I could just leave it like this, maybe, you know. But let's just do it half. And then this curve here is for the pancakes, and this curve here is for the fox, and this is the background, and there's a gradient there, and here's the original background. So let's get our Illustrator file, which is the mock-up PDF. Hit open, And then again, I'm just going to grab this guy and duplicate it to the other file. And there it is there, my logo. And I'm going to make it smaller, of course, because it should be not that big. It's going to be a small ad down here. Bring it down. There's like my little icon there. Make sure that it's living in a safe area. And to be safe, I could turn all these layers off and check where my bleed is. Let me turn this guy on. So that's in a good area. You notice it's not cutting off. Now this is what you don't want, is to have this guy in this corner here, because if he trims, it's going to get cut. So you got to make sure you stay in the guide, in the white, not the guides. So I'm going to turn everything back on and turn on my filter, and there it is. There's my ad. It's saved. The only thing I'm missing is my tagline. So pretty quick, you know, like clean composite. I mean, I could go in here and do one more thing that I think I need. I'm going to create another layer here, and I'm going to create a little shadow effect. I'm going to go to black here. So I'm going to paint in with the brush tool, again with a soft brush, and bring the opacity up, bring it up a little higher, the size. I'm just going to paint down here to create a little shadow for the dish. So I'm just going to paint a solid color like this. And then I'm just going to play with the opacity, bring the opacity down so you can see some of it, but as long as it's a little darker, so it gives the nuance that the plate is actually on there. Because if it doesn't, it looks a little bit, see that little area there, making that little area darker. Now it looks like it's a little bit more believable. So let me just save that. There's my ad.